Welcome back to the channel. If you already seen the title of the video, we're going to be talking about a few touchy subjects. So if any of the following trigger you might want to click off now. We'll be talking about sexual assault, rape, amongst a whole lot of other traumatic things that we have experienced within our life. So if you can't handle that, click off now.
Oh yeah, I'm just trying on glasses to prepare myself to talk about this. And these are dirty, so no.
So this will be a two-part video. This is the first half of the video. We're going to talk about from my childhood up to high school.
Anyway, yeah, we're going to start with my trauma because my trauma is not real trauma. So my trauma probably happened mostly around that time. Well, a big chunk of it. So for those who don't know, which I'm pretty sure most people watching this won't know, I was abandoned by my parents at the age of 4. My mom's a recovering drug addict, and my dad is a recovering drug addict in a sense. So my dad went to jail when I was 4, and he was in jail until I was about 16 years old, so just middle high school. And that's basically where all my trauma lies. There's a whole bunch of other stuff, and we're going to get to that momentarily. But I remember being very young and just being really stressed out about things that most 4-year-olds don't stressed out. Like, when is the next time I hear from my mother? When is the next time I'm going to see her? My hair had started to fall out, and I started to miss my brothers very much. It was just very stressful. But then my grandmother took me in as requested by my mother. So I wasn't in a dangerous or harmful situation. It could have been worse, but still, that's still quite a bit for a child to process. And previous to that situation of being taken away from being given to my grandmother, I remember us being very poor. And this is completely different than where I am now. But like when I was younger, I remember us like getting used toys that had missing parts, and it was just because my mother and father my mother was chronically ill and a drug addict, and my dad he worked for my uncle, and he made a decent amount, but that went to rent, groceries. But I can say I never went to bed hungry. I never really worried about my next meal. I was well taken care of. But I remember not having the best toys. I remember not having the best toys, and I had good clothing, and that was mainly because my father's side of the family, my grandmother and them, they made sure I was well clothed for school and stuff. But it was just really hard, and we were struggling quite a bit. And then eventually I moved into my grandmother, and I had a nice little group of friends. I was very active. I was very chubby. I was a chubby little cheerleader, and I had all the energy. And because of the group of friends I hung out with, I had 2 very best friends. I'm going to give them fake names because I wouldn't want to call them out. One's name was Kat, and the other one's name was Johnny. So Kat was my age, actually 4 months younger than me to be exact, and Johnny was like 2 or 3 years older than us. And our friends were all cool. We would hang out in Kat's room and just hang out. So one day I remember in particular we were having a cookout, and Johnny was like, let's play a game. Now I was like 5 or 6, and me and Kat was 5 or 6, and Johnny was maybe 9 or 10. And this game ended up with me sucking his penis for the first time. This game continued after a while. Like, we did it almost once a month. And me doing things to Kat. And like, many people wouldn't consider this rape or sexual assault, but it is, because he knew what he was doing, and he was taking advantage of people younger than him. And how did he know what he was doing? I don't know how he learned it. But either way, it's not right. So yeah. And then middle school, I was bullied pretty bad. I was actually sexually assaulted in the boys' the girls' bathroom. There was a group of boys who would follow me into the restroom and just make snot comments, and that's when I got homeschooled all the way up until high school.
Mine's, well, I feel like, not to compare stories, but I feel like mine's is probably worse than Ren's. The first memory I ever have of me being sexually assaulted, I don't know, I had to be like between the ages of like 4 and 6. My cousin had a birthday party, We were all at the house for the birthday party, and I remember her older cousin. I don't know how much older he was than me, but he was old enough to know right from wrong. I remember him. I don't know if he tried to force himself on me or if he successfully did it. I just remember running to tell my mom and my aunt what happened, and they pulled me in the room. And I just remember I had to go to the doctor, and I think my mom told me to lie about what happened because she didn't want my uncle's nephew getting in trouble and all this other stuff. So, and I kind of forgot what happened until like probably like last year or the year before that. I was in the car with my mom. We was going somewhere, and she brought it back up, and it kind of was like, damn, so that really did happen to me. So I wasn't tripping. So she basically was telling me that how she didn't want to get in trouble with CPS and how I had to go to the doctor, and I think they wanted to put me in therapy or something like that because it happened. That was the first time I got sexually assaulted. I got sexually assaulted 2 more times when I was away in college. So that was the first half of that. Growing up, for the most part, I would say that my parents did the best that they could with what they had. As far as me and my sister are concerned, like we never went to bed hungry. Almost everything we told them we wanted, we got. But my parents' marriage wasn't a good one. I remember my dad. I don't think that my dad knew, but I'm 2 years old, 2.5 years older than my sister, so I could process what was going on. She couldn't. I had to basically shield her from our reality. I remember my dad beating my mom, throwing stuff at my mom's head. One time in particular, we used to have I had a Sega Genesis in our house. This is like the first house I think my parents ever rented out. Me and my sister, my dad used to rock my sister to sleep every night, never failed. So one night, I think my dad came in there upset with my mom about something, and we had this little tea table because my sister made me play tea parties with her. And it was me, my sister, and my dad, and something just went off like that, and he flipped the table over. Soda was all on the wall. Soda got in my Sega Genesis and everything else. And my sister was looking like, my sister just didn't know what to do, so she started crying. She ran to me and started crying. My dad stormed out the room, walked out the house. I don't know what the hell happened. Next day, he's coming back like nothing's wrong, talking to me and my sister, and I'm looking at him like, the fuck is wrong with you? So that was probably, I had to be like 8 or 9 then. Things were normal for a few years with my parents, and then all of a sudden, again, I remember because I just started sporadically having seizures out of nowhere. I had to be like 11 or 12. And around this time, I was in like the transitional phase from like I was like in the 7th, 8th grade in middle school. For some reason, out of nowhere, I just started getting bullied. So I started fighting in school. I almost got suspended, but my uncle talked him out of suspending me. I don't know why he did, but my uncle, he talked him out of suspending me because I was getting into fights. I was talking back. Basically, I was acting out because of my home environment, and I didn't know how to express that to anyone around me. So I remember right before we moved out to the first house my parents ever bought, my parents had went in the garage and they were having a big argument. I don't know where my sister was, but I was in the front room watching TV, and I heard my dad yell at my mom about something that had to do with church and how me and my sister weren't his kids, and how my mom basically called my mom a hoe and was like that she's messing around with men in the church and all this other stuff. So that happened. I had to be like 12, 11, because we moved into our new house, and the drama didn't stop. My dad didn't stop putting his hands on my mom. So fast forward, I had to be like 12. I'm still acting out. I'm skipping basketball practice. I'm getting into fights during off season. I'm skipping school. So one of the teachers had noticed that my grades had started to slip, and she had told me to stay after class. And she was like, well, I noticed you're a really good kid. Your grades, you never get anything below a B in my class. What's going on with you at home? And I just broke down crying, and I started telling her what was going on. And she was like, well, yeah, I talked to your principal, and your absences are horrible, and if you miss one more class or you don't come to school at all, they're gonna basically send you to juvenile. And I was just like, man, whatever. Okay, whatever. I didn't take anything at that point seriously because everything that I knew was basically falling apart, and I didn't have no one to talk to about it. So I was acting out horribly to the point to where my mom tried to discipline me one time, and she had grabbed my wrist, and I balled up with my wrist in the fist, and I almost hit my mom because I was just that angry and I didn't know how to express it. So fast forward, I think it was like on the weekend. My dad started back with the accusing my mom of doing random stuff. So I remember they started back arguing. I think I remember how the argument started. So clearly my dad had an addiction to being on porn sites or whatever. So I remember him coming home with like a thick stack of papers, like this thick, of like porn stars he got off the computer, and he accused my mom of being one of the porn stars. And I guess he threw the stack of papers at her head or something like that. I think he threw like a VCR at my mom's head. And I remember him just like going off on random tangents, screaming, talking about how he's gonna kill me, my mom, and my sister, and I sleep, he gonna burn the house down, nobody's gonna find us. Now mind you, I'm like 12, 13 at the time, so I know exactly what the hell is going on. My sister's like 9, 10. She's scared. She's like coming in bed with me crying every night, and I have to literally protect my sister. I don't know if we're gonna wake up the next morning or not. I'm sneaking out of my room. Because my dad used to work 2 jobs. He used to work day job and a job overnight. My dad used to get home at 12 in the morning. So I don't know if I'm going to walk in my mom's room and find her dead one morning. Like, I'm basically 13. I'm 13 years old fearing for my fucking life. Because it's just like, I don't know if my dad's really going to legit snap and kill me, my mama, and my sister. So I remember one night while my dad was at work, before he got back home, my mom came in my room, woke me and my sister up. And she was like, get a trash bag. Put everything you can in this trash bag. We leaving your dad, and I'm not looking back. I was just like, I think it had to be the summer before I went to high school, or the end of my summer before I went to high school, because we ended up getting an apartment. And I was just like, this can't be real life, because it's just like my whole life, all I knew was my mom and my dad. I didn't think that they had the perfect marriage, but I thought that's how marriage was supposed to be. I remember when my dad was threatening me and my sister's life, my mom tried to do everything she could to save their marriage. We didn't fight out until they went to marriage counseling, and my mama made my dad to go to therapy, that he was clinically diagnosed with having bipolar disorder. Which I guess my mom told my grandparents, because I remember calling my grandma one day, and I just called her crying, and I told her, like, Daddy just said he's going to kill me, my mama, and my sister. And my grandma just kind of brushed it off and was like, oh, well, pray for him. He has the devil in him. This man just threatened to kill your 2 grandchildren and the mother of your grandchildren. You can tell me to pray for this nigga? That was pretty much the end of my traumatic childhood for the most part. As far as my dad is concerned, my parents ended up getting a divorce. We ended up moving out. For the longest, my mama didn't want my daddy to know where we stayed, because she was scared he was gonna like basically literally come kill us. And it was so bad to the point where even though I went to see my dad every other weekend, it was some weekends I didn't think I was gonna come back home, because if I didn't know if he took his medicine or not, I didn't know if I was gonna get the dad that I knew, or my psychotic episode dad. I also remember my dad was bringing me and my sister home from our weekend with him, because we had to go spend every other weekend with him. And I think my sister had said something to him that he didn't like, and he literally, we were in front of our apartment downstairs, and he just like punched my sister in the stomach to the point to where she almost had an asthma attack, punched her in her thigh. And I'm just sitting in the back seat like, I wanted to stop him because that's my little sister, but at the same time it's like, you're my dad. I shouldn't even have to be put in situations, so I have to choose who I want to protect. So we had to go upstairs and tell my mama what happened. She didn't file a police report because that's our dad, and she didn't want anything to happen to him, and she didn't want the police getting involved, and she didn't want my grandma stressing out, which I think to this day now, I feel like she should have filed a police report, because that's abuse on the child. My sister had to be like 13 or 14. No, she was in middle school. She had to be like 12 or 13. I think my sister had to go to school with those bruises on her, and she couldn't tell anybody what happened because, once again, my mom didn't want a CPS case open on her, and didn't want me and my sister getting taken away from her. That was just up until high school. So this is the first half of this video. This has been Ren'sKaseTV.